Hello, welcome back listeners to another episode of Radio Gagan. Today we're catching up with Gagan on what he got up to in the month of March. So, nice to have you back on, Gagan.
Thanks, Gabriel. Nice to be back.
So, let's start off at perhaps more deeper end. There's sort of been recent announcements that Oliver Dowden and the Deputy Prime Minister said that China was involved in hacking the Electoral Commission. This has created quite a stir in the media. Previous MPs such as Ian Duncan Smith have said that they've been targeted in the past. What do you sort of make of this, and how do you think governments ought to respond in the growing age of cyber as hacking becomes sort of more and more devastating?
So I think one of the big risks, we've got a general election on the horizon, local elections before then. I think deepfakes and the manipulation of how voters vote from outside state actors and others is a real risk to our democratic society. The fact that the Deputy Prime Minister felt the need to actually put this in the public arena says to me that it remains a big issue that we all need to be mindful of. I think when you're first elected, and Gabriel, you would have similar training, we're all mindful about our data and the risk of outside actors accessing that, whether it's phone or email and the like. So if anything, Oliver's announcement to me just reaffirmed the fact that we need to be a lot more self-aware and cautious on what we hold dearly, which is our democracy.
And just to follow up there on the deep fakes aspect, do you think that's something do you think there's going to be a lot of these in the next election?
Yes, absolutely. Technology, the double-edged sword of the industrial revolution we're going through with digital and tech, it means that deep fakes are becoming increasingly harder to identify. There's elections going on in other parts of the world, and I think they're actually using deep fakes publicly. Memory serves me, I was listening to the radio the other day. I think one politician is using his dead father to endorse him for re-election. So while it's in deep fake for positive for the candidate, there's nothing to say that can't be manipulated to ulterior motives and actually negative campaigning.
Well, yeah, that's interesting, because I think we always presume that it's a negative campaigning thing, but I never thought about using it to revive people. But so in a slightly different note, I guess that's the more, as you're saying, sort of the modern technical revolution. Perhaps something that's more old, based in tradition, more of the sort of ancient procedures of the House. There's been a lot more talk recently about the conduct of the House and the sort of jeering and raucousness that often characterises it and has made it somewhat sort of famous or infamous, depending on your perspective. What do you think about the tradition? Do you think it's something that should be maybe reduced a bit, or do you think it's...
So whenever I speak to constituents and friends and family about Parliament and how it works, I always say what you see in PMQs, the half an hour or 35 minutes of PMQs, is not really how Parliament works. Politics is a team sport, and what you're seeing at PMQs is a lot more playing to camera, galvanising the troops on your side. So I think PMQs is watched by millions every week, and part of it is the Punch and Judy aspect of it. So I would be hesitant about trying to change something that we've been doing for hundreds of years just because we think it doesn't shed a good light, because actually the reality is more people are engaged in watching politics and PMQs off the back of the raucous nature. We have strict protocols in terms of parliamentary language and how we address each other, but I describe the chamber as a bit like the Colosseum. It's a bit of a living beast, and if the chamber doesn't agree with you, they make it known. So trying to keep all sides happy and content means that hopefully if I am up on my feet, I'm given a bit of an easier ride, but that's just the nature of politics in this country.
Yeah, that real-time sort of feedback.
Yes. Even if you don't want to hear it.
Yeah. And something that's big, and I think we touched upon in the last episode of Radio Gagan, is big on the legislative agenda, is the government's tobacco and vaping bill. But something that's actually been around in the papers a bit and in the media in general, people are talking about, is the rise of vape shops on a lot of high streets across the UK. What do you think about this? I think there's two sides of the debate. One, which is they should be more regulated by councils to keep in line with the historic character of the high street, and another which is sort of, well, as freedom of enterprise, if these shops are making a profit, they can...
Yeah, Gabriel, you know that we've had a conversation as a team about this because it is going to come back to a vote on the Tuesday we're back. I'm a libertarian free marketeer, and so for me, I'm in a bit of a quandary because while I believe that all enterprise should be given the opportunity to go off and be successful, when you've got, I think, 4 vape shops opening up in Ricky High Street, which is not the biggest high street in the world, it does fundamentally change the character of the high street. There's been various allegations about some of the charity shops in central London being used as fronts for money laundering and business rates fraud, and some of those same allegations have been levied at some of these vape shops. I don't think necessarily there's evidence to back it up yet, but I say this as a former smoker, if it's a transition from smoking to vaping, I'm all in support of. But what I'm seeing at the moment, and conversations I've had with teachers at nursery schools, not secondary schools, nursery schools, about how vapes are being found in the playground and the like, that is really quite a large issue, and potentially a pandemic that we need to be mindful of as a legislator. How do we prevent young vulnerable people getting sucked into being addicted to vapes with all their funky colours and flavours? The cynic in me thinks that a lot of the marketing is aimed at young people rather than trying to transition a heavy smoker into vaping. Yeah. So there's a lot of parliamentarians across the House that are concerned, and it is a free vote on the Tuesday we're back, and at the moment I don't know which way I'm voting, but I've got various follow-up meetings both with local councillors about the vape shops, but also conversations I'll have with friends and family and even my team about actually where on the basis of our judgment would you encourage me to which way to vote, because it is going to be a gut feel because there's evidence to suggest both sides at the moment.
Yeah, that's an interesting one, keeping it in sort of balance, so I guess that's more of a problem that's orientated around our concerns for sort of the younger generations getting into vaping and smoking. I'd sort of flip on to the other side, more concerns for sort of perhaps more elderly people. There's a lot of debate at the moment about the use of cash in the economy. So with more and more people using cards and contactless payment methods, some stores are starting to go cash free. And some people are arguing that this is sort of marginalising elderly people who aren't as better acquainted with the technology. Do you think that we just sort of need to say goodbye to cash, or do you see cash as playing a role in the decades to come?
No, absolutely not. Cash is legal tender in this country, and you correctly pointed out that there's a certain demographic within our country that is a lot more happier using cash versus digital, whether it's contactless card or smartphones. No, I would be very resistant about having cash-free shops, because even things like having parking meters where you need to call up a number or use an app, while it's easier for the operator to make money and operate that particular car park, I would suggest that some people aren't tech savvy, so you're immediately disenfranchising certain elements of the population that you want actually to really encourage to be socially mobile. So how are you encouraging people of my parents' age to go out, going for a car park their vehicle, to go to the coffee shop and see their friends, if at the first hurdle they're struggling to park the car?
Yeah, I've never thought about that in terms of those exact people that we have tried to encourage to be more social and not less. So I think that's definitely a big consideration to take into account on that. And so, sort of in the more sort of perhaps wholesome sort of personal section of it. So if you weren't an MP or working in politics, what do you think you'd be doing?
I've got no idea.
Not even a faint.
No,
faint guess.
I jokingly say to people that the longer people are in politics at this level, the more de-skilled you get, because the skills I'm picking up in the 4.5 years I've been a parliamentarian are all related to being in the political bubble. So while there's a natural transition to being a political lobbyist or working for big corporate government affairs and the like, I'm not sure where my next step will be. And while that's a bit scary, actually my career to date has been just rolling with it most of the time. So I'm hopeful that I will retain my seat in the next general election, and that will kick this particular conversation out to the long grass. But if come the day after the general election I'm not fortunate enough to be honoured as being a Member of Parliament for South West Hertfordshire, I'll have to, like other people, take a cold hard look at myself and say, where is my skill base? Where are the opportunities? What do I want to do next? Knowing full well that I've got bills to pay like everyone else has.
Okay, and I know from talking to you in the office, you're a big fan of cricket. So with sort of summer vaguely on the horizon, do you have any cricket plans for the summer? Are you going to sign up for a club?
So definitely not time for a club. I have retained my interest in trying to play for the parliamentary team, and it is very much a social team. So I've only played once in 25 years, and that was against the Indian High Commission. We didn't play very well, got a few runs, dropped a couple of dodgy catches, but actually it did rekindle my passion for the game. No, but I know full well I'm not going to be called up for a test match anytime soon. This is purely for a bit of socialising, and actually some of the venues are weird and wonderful, and the beauty of my job is that I get opportunities that money can't buy. So while I've got the honour of being a Member of Parliament, I'm going to try and do some of the fun things, which while fun is also part of the soft power. I don't think we do enough of the soft power where politics is about relationships and being able to communicate with people from all walks of life. So my plan is, subject to parliamentary business and what Nick and my team say I'm able to get off to do a little bit more, but I'm conscious that we're in a general election year, so most of my free time is focused on that.
Okay. And finally, with the Easter season, what is your favourite Easter chocolate? So talking sort of mini eggs, cream, standard.
It's got to be cream eggs. I will happily have cream eggs all year round. And
not a seasonal thing for you, though.
No, definitely not. No, good chocolate, and when I say good, I use that in the least possible term. My chocolate taste is the cheaper the better. So I've got a sweet tooth, as you know, Dave.
Yeah. Well, I think that's all that we have for today, listeners. Gagan, thank you very much for sitting down again, and until next time.
Thank you, Gabriel.
All right, thanks.